An impressive group comprised of individuals who have made significant contributions to interscholastic athletics in New Hampshire have been selected for induction into the NHIAA Hall of Fame today. Inductees include outstanding professionals who have promoted all of the values that high school sports bring to schools and to communities. Interscholastic athletics provides a valuable laboratory in which sportsmanship, honesty, dedication, teamwork, self-discipline, loyalty, and cooperation are learned and practiced. An integral part of education, interscholastic athletics is the master teacher of values, and the teaching of values is essential to the education of our youth. Profound dedication of these professionals, so fundamental to interscholastic values, makes possible the continued growth of interscholastic athletics. New Hampshire is truly indebted to these giving individuals who have touched the lives of so many young people in our state. Certainly one of the most distinctive chapters in our great tradition of sports in our nation rests in the many outstanding accomplishments which comprise the colorful tradition of interscholastic sports. The spirit of America is embodied in high school athletics, which reflect the aspirations, dedication, involvement, and teamwork that make dreams come true. We take great pride inducting the new members. They symbolize the ultimate achievement in athletic competition as well as in their chosen professions. We hope that everyone involved in the high school sports arena will share in the spirit of the NHIAA Hall of Fame, which stands as a lasting memorial to the New Hampshire tradition. So sit back, relax, and meet this year's class. Under the category of athlete, the NHIAA is pleased to welcome Matthew Bonner into the Hall of Fame. A 1999 graduate of Concord High School, Matt's basketball journey began in the Granite State and carried him to national prominence, all while remaining deeply connected to his New Hampshire roots. At Concord High School, Matt was one of the most decorated players in state history. Under the guidance of Billy Hobrook, he scored 2,459 career points, becoming the first player in Class L history to surpass the 2,000-point milestone. He led the Crimson Tide to an incredible 77-6 record and 3 consecutive NHIAA Class L state championships, 1997, 98, and 99. A dominant force on both ends of the court, Matt averaged 35 points and 14 rebounds per game as a senior and was named New Hampshire Player of the Year 3 straight years. His achievements earned him recognition as the 1999 Gatorade Circle of Champions New England Regional Player of the Year and a finalist for National High School Athlete of the Year honors. Matt continued his success at the University of Florida, where he excelled both athletically and academically. A 4-year letterman and all-SEC performer, he earned numerous accolades, including Academic All-American of the Year in both 2002 and 2003. His combination of athletic skill and scholastic dedication led to his induction into the University of Florida Athletics Hall of Fame in 2015. Following college, Matt embarked on a 12-year NBA career, becoming a respected member of the San Antonio Spurs. Known affectionately as the Red Mamba, he helped lead the Spurs to 2 NBA championships, 2007 and 2014, and was the NBA's three-point field goal percentage leader in 2010-2011. Beyond the numbers, Matt was recognized throughout his career for his professionalism, team-first mentality, and leadership on and off the court. Despite his national acclaim, Matt has never forgotten where it all began. A proud native son of Concord, he has been a lifelong ambassador for New Hampshire athletics, often returning home to support local programs and inspire young athletes to pursue their dreams with integrity and dedication. In 2018, he and his sister Becky Bonner were inducted into the Boys and Girls Clubs of America Hall of Fame, underscoring their shared commitment to youth development and community service. the NHIAA is honored to welcome Mr. Matthew Bonner to the Hall of Fame class of 2025.
I'd say the thing that influenced me the most to play basketball at Concord High was my dad and his friends who also went to Concord High and played basketball there, and the Concord Men's League, growing up around the Concord Men's League and everybody there who played at Concord High. Just as early as I can remember, it had an aura to it to go put on the Crimson Tide jersey, Tide Pride, represent your hometown. I was always excited, and that was the goal, was to make it to Concord High and try to win some state championships, which we did. Balancing basketball and family occurred organically because I'm from a basketball family. Both my parents love basketball. They're wicked tall. I think they knew they were going to have tall kids. We should probably get them into basketball, and started playing at the Boys and Girls Club, and then at the Grand State Raiders. And my sister played, same thing, AU, Concord High School. My brother was a trader. He went to Trinity High School. But it was always about basketball. All our meals, all our logistics revolved around when places had open gym, when practices were, tournaments, games, everything, socially, family. It was just like almost like a lifestyle. And as a result, our whole family was all in with basketball, so it just happened. I would say the biggest change between when I played at Concord High School in the mid to late 90s and now is that back then, like, the best players played for their public high school in their hometown, represented their hometown, like that meant something. And now the landscape's completely changed. If you're really good, you're probably getting snatched up by a prep school, and you're not going to be able to have your hometown written across the front of your jersey and go play in front of everybody you grew up with, every Friday and Tuesday night, like when I grew up. I think that's probably the biggest change. I'd say the most memorable aspect of my 4 years at Concord High, first and foremost, was my teammates, coaches, the relationships built there. I'm still friends with a lot of my teammates. I know a lot of them are probably going to come to this ceremony. And even the ones I haven't seen in years, if I see them, it's like nothing's changed. It's like we're, junior year in high school, going to Milano's to get pizzas or something. I remember Coach Haubrick during one of our games. We had won a zillion games in a row. And I don't know if we just didn't have the focus, the intensity of that game. And he was trying to motivate us at halftime. And he's like, you got to make every one of these days, every one of these games count. You're going to remember these games the rest of your life. And, growing up around the Concord Men's League, you always hear all the stories, glory days. Back in my day, we took Central, the double OT. They were throwing rocks at the bus, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, okay. But now that I'm on the other side of that, it's the same thing. Like, I remember all that. I remember all the games. And it was just such a special time in your life. You don't really realize it till you get out. So all those cliches become true. And I'm just really proud to have represented the city, the state, and have everybody follow, be a part of that, my basketball journey, not just while I was at Concord High, but beyond. And those relationships, and then obviously winning the 3 state championships as well. I mean, I would like to thank the entire state of New Hampshire, if that's even possible. That's what it was growing up. It was just all-encompassing. It obviously starts with my parents, my family. Paula Bonner, back in the day, no GPS. I have no idea how she found half those gyms, but she did, driving me everywhere. Obviously, my dad as well. My brother and sister, my tackling dummies in the gym. And then after that, you just go down the line. Concord Boys and Girls Club, everybody there, where I first started playing basketball those years. And then Concord Men's League, that is just an amazing basketball world that I got to be a part of, scorekeeping, reffing, subbing in teams only had 4 players or someone got ejected or whatever. And then it was Granite State Raiders. Obviously, everyone there, you all know what you mean to me. Coaches, players, all those relationships, all those road trips, playing in all those tournaments, nationally putting New Hampshire on the map at that level. Then Concord High, everybody there. Concord YMCA, I basically lived there through high school. If I wasn't playing basketball with my friends at Concord High or my AU team, I was at the YMCA working, lifting weights, individual work. And I got to give Bishop Brady a small shout out, even though they were our cross-city rivals. We never got to play. Frank Monahan would always open the gym up. Didn't matter, I went to Concord High, would always let me come in and work out with them and their guys and open gym and pick up. And all those guys from my AU team that decided to go to the second best team in the city instead of coming to Concord High. And then the Manchester crew, everybody at Central, you know who you are, at SNU, Coach Spiro, everybody on the Seacoast, the Friel family, everybody over there. I mean, I could go down the line. The whole state was like really welcoming. It was like back then, you knew someone who had a key to a gym and they would let you in if you wanted to get better. And I'm eternally grateful for that.
Jeffrey Cousineau has dedicated his life to the pursuit of excellence in education, athletics, and community service, leaving an indelible mark on New Hampshire's high school sports landscape. Born on March 7, 1967, in Okinawa, Japan, Jeff is the eldest child of Wayne and Doris Cousineau. His family settled in Manchester, New Hampshire, where he graduated from Manchester Memorial High School in 1985. Jeff's academic journey continued with an associate's degree in mechanical engineering technology from New Hampshire Technical Institute in 1987, and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Rochester Institute of Technology in 1991. Jeff began his professional career as a design engineer, but his passion for education and mentorship led him to transition into teaching in 1993. As the head of the Derryfield boys varsity soccer team, Jeff has achieved remarkable success, guiding his teams to 8 NHIAA state championships and maintaining an overall coaching record of 386 wins, 143 losses, and 25 ties. His leadership has fostered a culture of respect, integrity, and sportsmanship, earning his team's widespread admiration. Notable highlights include an undefeated season in 2017, culminating in an NHIAA Division III state championship, and 4 consecutive state titles from 2012 to 2015. Jeff's contributions extend beyond the field. His advocacy for positive coach-referee relationships has further strengthened the integrity of high school athletics. Jeff's achievements have been recognized through numerous awards, including induction into the New Hampshire Soccer Coaches Association Hall of Fame in 2018, United Soccer Coaches Northeast Region Coach of the Year in 2017, and multiple New Hampshire Soccer Coaches Association Coach of the Year honors. His philosophy centers on mentoring student athletes to grow with confidence, realize their potential, and become leaders both on and off the field. The NHIAA is honored to welcome Mr. Jeffrey Cousineau as a coach to the Hall of Fame class of 2025.
For me, I would have to say that it was like a moment that happened. It wasn't planned. Growing up, there were some things that I had done and was involved with. My mother ran a daycare, and I was working with the kids. I was like 10 or so, and I had like my own little tribe of kids who were doing stuff in the summer. But I think that's where it sort of set the seeds about coaching. But I, grew up, wanted to be a mechanical engineer, got a job as a mechanical engineer, and was doing my thing. Got a call from Peter Perrick, my former high school coach, and he asked me to help him assist a coach on an ODP team. And that really opened up some opportunities for me. And that's when I got a call from Exeter High School, and they were curious if I would be interested in coaching their girls varsity team. And it was like, I would love to, except I'm an engineer. I can't get to Exeter from Manchester in time. And they were like, want to teach? And I'm like, ooh, that sounds fun. And realized really coaching and teaching were so closely connected and really aligned with the things I really liked. So at that point, I jumped at it, got both jobs, and that changed everything for me. So balance, tough thing, right? Like I feel like that's that piece of trying to find perfection. We're all working for it, but to get there, it's almost impossible. Add on an extra layer. If you want to be good at something, you have to actually dedicate time, really focused practice to get there. And that creates an imbalance. And I really feel like I was no different. So in the early days, I was all in with coaching. I was involved with New Hampshire ODP. I was obviously coaching the high school team. I was involved with coaching education schools with the state association. And I just found anything and anything, everywhere that I could be to be involved with it. And in time, I kind of recognized that it's not about the results, right? So it wasn't about records anymore. It was really more about relationships. And strangely enough, that sort of paralleled when my daughter was born. And I was like, that's when I shifted my focus less about the results and more about the process. Stripped some things down, got myself to a place where I was really now coaching the things that really mattered to me. So, I was still doing coaching education courses. I was running the high school team and just managed to make sure I carved out time for the things that matter most in terms of family and whatnot. So I don't know that I've actually got it perfectly right. I would hope that Beth and Zoe understand how important they are to me, but it's that ongoing process of trying to make sure you get there. But just try to have both that are going on. I think there have been a lot of changes over time, but there are two that stand out to me most. And first off is with the players. They've become so much better. Their experiences and their opportunities to play soccer, there are just so many with club and pickup games, seeing professional sports on TV, to be able to see soccer every day of the week, just giving them a great view of what is possible in the game. So now players are arriving just so much more talented, tactically aware. It's exciting to work with them in that environment. But in the same way, the thing that kind of concerns me most is that there are outside pressures trying to keep kids away from playing high school sports. And so club soccer has done a wonderful thing to raise the bar, but it's starting to get into a place where they're worried about pathways and creating opportunities to become professional players. And while there are those players out there who are going to go that route and will need to really focus, it makes me sad when these clubs start micromanaging players and trying to prevent them from playing multiple sports, let alone playing high school sports. And I think that's a huge loss. Playing for your high school team, to wear your colors, to play for your friends, to represent your school, these are memories that last a lifetime and are just so valuable to just growth and being a youth player. So I just would hope that we could find a way to balance that. There'll be players who really need to focus and go on, and they will be, the Christian Pulisics of the world. Awesome. But the rest of them, let's make sure we don't take away the very things that make their life special and memories as a teenager in high school. First thing that pops in my mind is the 2017 season with the Derryfield team. We went undefeated, 18-0. We won a state title. It was the most talented team I'd ever had. It was such a privilege to be part of that journey with them, to be able to have that. But in reality, the thing that really stands out most for me is the relationships that I've developed with the players over the years. Every team is different. I tell the players every year, this group will only be together once. This situation. So kids will go on and graduate, new kids will come in. So we have a new group of kids, and everybody brings something different to the mix. So there's just a different dynamic and different challenges, and we have different friendships and bonds that happen. So I think about all those Exeter teams and Derryfield teams, and they're all unique and they're all very special to me, right? And I so value the relationships that I've been able to cultivate from that. There's still players that I talk with regularly, and to see them, starting their careers, raising families, becoming leaders in their own environments, it's just really wonderful to know I was a small part of their journey, and to get to see that and see what they've become. So for me, it's really about those relationships that I value most, and I just smile about as I think back on. This will be a long list, I think. Let's start obviously with my parents, my mom and dad, Wayne and Doris. They do what parents do, but did so wonderfully. The love and support they have given me throughout. And, I can think back to the day I came home from grammar school with this page of let's register for a town soccer league. I didn't quite understand soccer. They certainly didn't know much about it, but they dutifully signed me up, got me the gear, took me to practices and games. And really that's where the love of the game started for me. And then you fast forward as, I was going to be a mechanical engineer working in it. And all of a sudden I come home one day and hey, mom and dad, guess what? I am not going to be an engineer anymore. I'm giving that up. I'm going to be a teacher and a coach. And I think they were a little surprised, but endless support on that, knowing that I was kind of following my heart and the things that I valued most. So that sort of support has been huge. So whether it's my early days at Exeter or my time at Derryfield, they've always been there supporting me. I also like to thank, my high school coach, Peter Perrick. I think about that moment of him inviting me in to assist and coach with him, how important that was. But on top of it, I'm not sure he quite appreciates how much of an impact on me he has had. Not just the coaching and the experience of playing for him, but just watching him coach. He was great. He cared about the kids. He was consistent and genuinely wanted us all to get better. And to me, that was how I want to coach, the things I want to bring to the players. So if I think about my parents or Coach Perrick, there's no way I can ever repay what they did for me. So I just try and pay it forward, try to give the players the same sort of support, love, and be there for them as they were there for me. I got to thank, my daughter, Zoe, just huge. She's always been my biggest fan. She always there cheering it on. And, two peas in a pod for us just to enjoy being each other at our things. So she'd be at our games, and I'm been obviously at her games as well, but also she was into musicals and theater, so I'd be there for that. So it was just such a unique dynamic of supporting each other's loves and through that process. And then my girlfriend, Beth, for the last 10 plus years, we've just, she's been there supporting me constantly. Knowing, Beth and Zoe know how much this means to me and how much this is just a part of who I am. So to allow me to have that sort of opportunity to work with the students, the players, and be there supporting me, I couldn't do it without them. So it's huge.
Under the category of contributor, the NHIAA is pleased to welcome G. Mike Lee into the Hall of Fame. A 1970 graduate of Alton High School and a 1974 graduate of Plymouth State, Mike began his career teaching in Ware, Massachusetts, before returning home in 1976 to Farmington High School, where his influence would become synonymous with excellence and opportunity. From 1977 through 1993, Mike served as Farmington's Director of Athletics while teaching remedial education and coordinating work-study programs. He later earned a master's degree in supervision and leadership from the University of New Hampshire and moved into school leadership, assistant elementary principal, middle school principal, and Farmington High School principal. Across every role, Mike championed students first, academically, athletically, and as people. A visionary builder of programs, Mike founded the Farmington Holiday Tournament in 1979 as a 4-team boys event and added a girls tournament in 1981 to ensure equal opportunity. Now known statewide as the Mike Lee Holiday Bash, the event has grown into New Hampshire's largest boys' holiday tournament and one of its longest-running traditions. The girls' tournament stands as the longest-running girls' holiday event in the state. Mike's service to the NHIAA is equally distinguished. He contributed on the basketball committee from 1998 to 2009, the Executive Council 2005 to 2009, and the Classification Committee 2006 through 2009, bringing the steady judgment of a coach and principal to statewide policy. His leadership and mentorship have influenced coaches throughout New Hampshire, including through off-season development that always kept one principle clear: school teams come first. Among his honors, Mike received the Walter Smith Memorial Award in 1996, was inducted into the Farmington Sports Hall of Fame in 2008, and entered the inaugural class of the New Hampshire Basketball Coaches Association Hall of Fame in 2019. Beyond accolades, his legacy is measured in the thousands of students who learn life through sport under his watch. Mike is a devoted husband to Carolyn Candy Cushman Lee and proud father of Joshua and Timothy. The NHIAA is honored to welcome Mr. G. Mike Lee to the Hall of Fame class of 2025.
There were multiple things that motivated me. One was, I think I was destined to be here. Back in 1969-70, they used to send out a schedule to all the high schools, and there is moi, Coach Lee, there as a high school junior. Who would have ever thought? I played for Dave Smith. The irony of it is, here we go. How many years later? 50 years later, I sit here. So I think that was the beginning of it. My high school principal, when I started working at Farmington, was really an outstanding mentor for me. I was the new guy on the block. There were no coaches. I came into the school in mid-September, and he said, I need a cross-country coach. You're coaching, right? And back in those days, when you got hired, you pretty much were assigned a coaching position. There was a lot of in-school coaching. We don't see that as much any longer. The next year, he says, I need an athletic director. And I said, okay. It's $400. I said, okay. Well, at the end of the year, I realized what $400 was. It was nothing. So they gave me a $400 raise for the following year. So I made $800. And that was a position I kept until I became a high school administrator, middle school administrator. So I'd have to say Ken Beaupre was probably the person who probably motivated me the most, gave me enough rope, and he pretty much said, do what you think's best for the system, but communicate. There was a time early in my career I was coaching 3 sports. I was an athletic director. I was working summers. I was running camps. I was going to camps. I was working part-time. You just have to have a home where everybody's on the same page and everybody understands what the common goal is, as I think most coaches understand. I have a wife who is extremely supportive. Both my kids lived in the gym. It didn't really matter. They went to games in ball bags sometimes, and that's how we maintained our sanity. I typically would schedule my practices for 7 p.m. So that gave me after school time to take care of other business, maybe get home, and maybe say hello or good night. And you know how practices go when you start at 7 p.m. They go pretty late sometimes. Another piece that was difficult for me was I've also worked on my master's degree during all of this. And simply what that means is getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, doing 2 hours of schoolwork, put your uniform on to go to work, get to work by 6:30, and maybe get home by 10 o'clock. That was pretty much a common day throughout the winter. Spring was okay. So I think that's how it all worked out, and consequently, you just have to be ultra organized. You have to be. The changes I've encountered in athletics, the list goes on. I spent a lot of time thinking about this when the questions were sent. It's totally a different game today than it was in 1976 when I started. Never mind what happened maybe in 1966 or previous to that. Technology is probably one of the greatest impacts. Not only the information that gets sent out from the NHIAA office, but how we communicate with parents, how we communicate with our students. I mean, there used to be a time you had a phone tree. Well, you know, that doesn't work anymore. Cell phones work and texting works. That phone tree doesn't work. Don't expect a phone call back. It's not going to happen. Gender issues, those are things we didn't deal with early on. I'll call them overreaching parents. Some parents understand where the line is, others really just don't understand that they have to be counseled, they have to be educated. And if you take the time to do that, I found I had way fewer issues if you put the issues out in the front rather than wait until they happen. Once they happen, it's damage control. It's almost too late. Rules and regulations, I think, are far more flexible than they were early on. I have to give the NHIAA a lot of credit as to how they've approached different issues along the way. Flexibility is really where the magic word is now. The other is long-serving coaches. We don't find long-serving coaches the way we did. Number of sports that are offered. There was a time there were limited sports. Today, there are multiple sports for kids. You know, where does this all go in the future? Well, Jim Demirish and I had a discussion one day, and he told me that in my lifetime, we would see club sports take over interscholastic sports. And, you know, we debated on that for the longest time, and consequently, he has hit it on the head. There's one, it's the relationship you have with your student athletes and your students. And I was fortunate enough to really have a very positive relationship with my hometown students, but I also coached outside of the system, and I still have phone calls to this day where kids will call up, can you give me a recommendation, or what do you think about this, or do you think I should do that? I think relationship with colleagues is another very positive thing that I was involved with. I have to recognize the community I worked in. I have had a most supportive community. It's almost like you can do anything you want wrong, fix it and it's still okay. But Farmington, for me anyway, it was just a wonderful place to work. I have to talk about the former athletic directors and coaches around the state. I mean, you can't get this job done if you don't pick a phone up and ask for advice. You just can't get it done. I have two coaches I need to thank. One is Sut Marshall. I was a 7th grader, and I didn't know what basketball was. Not a clue. And they started a junior high team. Well, I didn't know much about it, even where to begin. And he had played for Kennett. And Kennett had won a string of basketball championships in the 60s, so he brought a competitive spirit that I needed. And my next guy is have to talk about Dave Smith for a moment. Dave's at Co-Brown, as we all know. I was in his first coaching class, so I taught him everything he knows. Just ask him. But we've had a great relationship since then. He's taught me an awful lot, just role modeling. And he's about as good as they come. So, next to last is my family. Although my family lives in the gym with me, or lived in the fields with me, or lived in the ball bag with me. And then, of course, the most important person on the list is my wife. I don't even think she knew my name for about 15 years because I was never home. But we were joking just recently, how many basketball games or events do you think you've gone to in your life? She looked at me, she goes, well, I bet it's over 10,000. And you stop and think about it, that's a lot of days in a gym or on a field. And when I was asking the question, I was thinking of Buddy Trask. It's kind of the same thing. Buddy's family just became part of Colebrook. Or Colebrook became part of Buddy's family. Same situation. I couldn't put it any better than that. It's a big family, and you have to support each other to find success.
For more than 3 decades, Leslie Les Poore has been a pillar of New Hampshire high school athletics as an educator, coach, and mentor whose influence extends far beyond the playing fields and gymnasiums of Lisbon Regional School. A 1983 graduate of Lisbon and a proud alumnus of Plymouth State University, Les dedicated his life to teaching, coaching, and leading young athletes in the North Country with integrity, humanity, and unwavering passion. From the moment he returned to his alma mater in 1987, Les became synonymous with Lisbon athletics. Over a remarkable 35-year coaching career in soccer and 27 years in basketball, he instilled in his players the values of hard work, discipline, and respect principles that defined both his teams and the community he represented. His Lisbon squads were known for their tenacity, preparation, and sportsmanship, earning the admiration of peers across the state. Les's coaching record speaks for itself. He guided the Lisbon boys basketball program to 4 Division IV state championships, 2005, 2006, 2007, and 2011, and 7 Final Four appearances, compiling an impressive 312 career victories. On the pitch, his soccer teams captured 2 Division IV state titles, 2006 and 2008, reached 6 Final Fours, and amassed 332 wins. Even in years when numbers or talent were thin, his teams remained competitive, a testament to his ability to inspire belief and effort in every athlete he coached. Throughout his career, Les's philosophy remained simple yet profound. Treat everyone with respect, opponents, officials, and teammates alike. Win or lose with dignity, and always be there for your players. That commitment earned him not only championships, but also lifelong friendships and the gratitude of generations of athletes who saw in him a coach, a mentor, and a role model. The NHIAA is honored to welcome Mr. Leslie Les Poore as a contributor to the Hall of Fame class of 2025.
My motivation to become involved or stay involved in interscholastic athletics was mainly due to my passion and love for high school sports, and I was very competitive, and it was also a way that I wanted to bring that passion back to my community, and I thought the best way to do that would be to go to college as a physical education teacher. And I did that, and I went for 4 years, graduated, and I went right back to my hometown, and I was able to give that passion back for the love of the coaching and athletic director, and here I am 38 years later, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. The balance between family and work could be challenging at times, for sure. At the time, I was not only athletic director, but I was also coaching for 3 seasons as well. So I was very busy, to say the least. That included varsity soccer and varsity basketball, and usually a middle school sport in the spring. But with that said, I was able to have that balance that I wanted to be successful at both a father and as an athletic director and a coach. And I was lucky enough to have 2 wonderful boys who played at sports at a high level, and I was able to follow them, and they understood the situation that I was busy as well, and so I was able to see them, and we made it work. And I also give a lot of thanks to my wife, Melissa, who is, she's the rock of this, and she always made things a little easier for me, and we were able to make out a schedule, and I wouldn't change a thing. And I'm so proud that I was able to make everything work, not only with my career, but following my boys' career. It was an awesome experience. I think a lot of that has to do with social media / technology. It is obviously different now than it was when I first started 3 decades ago. So that can make the job much more demanding. And, you know, when you start your day off with several emails, some of them good, some of them not so good, it can certainly make for an interesting day. But at the same time, I was very fortunate to be a part of a community that was very supportive of what I did and what we did as far as athletics. We have some wonderful families and some amazing student athletes, and I have nothing but good things to say about the community of Lisbon Regional that I was able to be a part of for, you know, all those years. And I wouldn't change a thing, and I wouldn't want to be at another school. So as far as the changes go, you know, there might be for some out there, but for me, I think I like it just the way it is. The most memorable aspects of my career were certainly the championships. As a coach, I was, you know, fortunate enough to coach some very good teams in varsity basketball and varsity soccer, and obviously you have some wonderful memories through that with those events. But at the same time, I had just as much fun and with the teams that maybe weren't as good and might have had a losing season. And also dealing with that as an athletic director, it was always what I thought was a positive experience at school. And once again, I tip my hat to the Lisbon community, as I just said earlier, that things ran pretty smoothly. And but with that said, I think that one of the things that meant the most to me is that it's the bonds and connections that you make along the way with being an athletic director and also as a coach, and those last forever. And you know, you see those kids come back to school, and they'll open the door and say, "Hey, coach," and you haven't seen them in 30 years, and that to me is what it's all about. And you can't beat that. That's just special. There are many people that, you know, that helped me along the way as far as supporting me for, you know, throughout my career with athletics. And I think all the principals that I've had, we had an awesome working relationship, and that's very important as an athletic director and or as a coach. You need that foundation to run a successful program. But with that said, there's a few in particular that stick out for me, and they are Glenn Stillins, who first hired me out of college, and Bob Butson, principal as well, and also a colleague, Graham Parham, who he was also inducted into the NHIAA Hall of Fame. So I'm the second one to be also inducted, so it's certainly an honor. Those three guys stick out a little bit more because the professional advice that they gave me was like no other. They got me through what you could call, nothing's never easy, you know, when you're in this business. And there was times that I would be in a rut or whatever, and they would be the first ones to come down and try to lift me up and give me some words of wisdom and confidence to get through things. And that meant the world to me. But you also find out who your true friends are in a hurry. When it comes to athletics, and, you know, as a coach, if you win games, you see these people come up, they're hugging you and they shake your hand, but your true friends, you find out in a hurry, is after a tough loss or a game that you're supposed to win and you lose or you get upset. And those three guys, you know, they stick out, and I always remember, like, they were the ones that the phone would ring and they'd be, "Hey, Les, you know, keep your chin up," and they would always be there for positive words of wisdom, and I'll always remember that. And all three of those guys were just huge supporters for me. And I also want to mention my brother Phil, my older brother. He was there for day one for me since I was a kid, and he was one of my biggest supporters, you know, as my wife is. And I don't know what I would do without him. He was my biggest fan, and he followed me through all the games and all the, you know, the highs and lows, and I can't say enough about him. I love my brother, and you know, he's just an awesome guy. when we talk about family, my mom and dad were also huge supporters of whatever I did, and they, followed me and always had the schedules on the fridge, or went to the games and went to the title games or any game. And they've since passed, but I know they're here, and I know that they would have loved to have been here today. And I miss them dearly, but I know they're proud of me, and I cannot thank them enough for what they did for me. And I love them.
Under the category of official, the NHIAA is pleased to welcome Richard Rick Ross into the Hall of Fame. From Rick's early days as a wrestler at Fork Union Military Academy to his decades of mentorship and officiating, Rick's career has been defined by an unwavering commitment to youth development and the values of sportsmanship. After graduating from Fork Union in 1979, Rick attended North Georgia Military College, earning a Bachelor of Science degree in 1983 and a commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Army, where he served honorably and was awarded both the Army Commendation Medal and the Army Achievement Medal. Upon completing his service, he turned his leadership skills toward shaping young lives through athletics and community service. Rick began his civilian career at the Manchester YMCA, where he served as youth director and assistant overnight camp director before becoming camp director in 1997. Over his 29-year tenure, he established the YMCA wrestling team and coached for 27 seasons, helping countless young athletes discover discipline, teamwork, and self-confidence on and off the mat. Beyond coaching, Rick's influence spread across the state. He served as president of the Middle School Coaches Association for 10 years, was a 3-time Middle School Coach of the Year, and later became a guiding figure in wrestling officiating. Joining the New Hampshire Wrestling Officials Association, NHWOA, in 1998, he rose to become its president, a role he has held for more than 8 years. In this capacity, Rick has championed recruitment and training initiatives to sustain the sport's integrity and ensure fair play for future generations. His service extends to the NHIAA Wrestling Committee, where his insights and leadership have strengthened wrestling programs statewide. A fixture at state meets, volunteer tournaments, and high school banquets, Rick's presence has become synonymous with the highest standards of sportsmanship and respect. Rick's philosophy on high school athletics captures his life's mission. High school athletics play a vital role in a student's growth by teaching discipline, caring for teammates, and embracing responsibility. Through these lessons, young athletes learn the true meaning of respect and character. The NHIAA is honored to welcome Mr. Richard Rick Ross to the Hall of Fame class of 2025.
Okay, I had several people that interested me in getting into the scholastic athletics officiating. It started when I got out of the Army. I came to Manchester and I started working at the YMCA, and then I started going to matches, wrestling matches through West High School. And then we started a wrestling program at the Y, and then watching the need for officials. And then some of my friends were already officials, so then I felt the need that, you know, and a few years later I decided to join the officiating ranks. So the way I worked it out with work and family is I'm not married, so I don't have a big family. I just have a dog, which everybody laughs, but it is the hardest thing when you were officiating in high school sports to, when there were all-day events, to find somebody to leave your dog and stuff like that. So finding a balance there is really rough. It's, you know, just for the animal, but having a lot of friends that come over and help you out and things like that. And then time-wise, you just got to either decide you're going to do it or not, you know, bite the bullet and be part of the program, or not. So over the past several years, I've encountered several changes in athletics here, starting with most recently, obviously, ever since COVID, we've had a hard time finding a lot of officials in all sports, and that runs across the country. And other changes I've seen, better training, much better training that we have, especially that I know of in the Wrestling Officials Association. The training is much more than when I first started. It was, here's a book, read it, take a test, get on the mat. And now they go through a seasoned training before they're put out on the mats and things like that. Much more support from the NHIAA, so you can pick up the phone and call. I only got word from people prior to me. So, I mean, I've been the president of the association for a while, and when I pick up the phone, anybody I call, I get a call back that same day. So from what I've heard, it's different from many, many years ago. Probably my most memorable was probably when the female wrestling, the first state championship for a female wrestler in the state. So just the look on her face and everything. I mean, you see, they celebrate a lot and everything, but that was definitely was pretty, I thought it was really nice and pretty interesting. And then seeing, when you see a wrestler, since that's the only sport I officiate, when you see a wrestler from a freshman to a senior all of a sudden go from a wrestler that's not very good, or they're okay, and then all of a sudden their senior year, you see them winning the either the Division 1, 2, or 3, or the Meet of Champion tournament. That's pretty awesome. Definitely. It started actually at West High with Coach Bob Guest. So he was one of the first people I met when I came to New Hampshire and talked to him and about officiating and stuff. He was a coach at the high school. He wasn't an official. And definitely Jim Charlin, who's the commissioner. He's been involved with wrestling longer than I have, and he's our commissioner currently right now, so he's been a big support with me. And then more recently, Ben Tessier, who happens to be the person in charge of training. And in the last 4 years, say, we've increased our training from a few hours, every month or something, to multiple meetings, Zoom meetings, in-person meetings and training. So definitely Ben also.
Under the category of coach, the NHIAA is pleased to welcome Harold Sachs into the Hall of Fame. A mentor whose career spanned more than 4 decades, Coach Sachs built a program and a philosophy that forever shaped the landscape of high school softball in the Granite State. After graduating from Cedar Ridge High School in New Jersey in 1972 and earning degrees from Marietta College and Riviera University, Coach Sachs began his teaching and coaching journey that would eventually lead him to Salem High School in 1980. By 1982, he had taken the helm of the Salem softball program, embarking on a legendary career defined by excellence, consistency, and integrity. Under his leadership, the Salem Blue Devils became synonymous with success. Over 32 years, Coach Sachs compiled an extraordinary 611-88 record, capturing 15 NHIAA state championships and making 20 championship appearances. His team set the gold standard for preparation, teamwork, and sportsmanship, qualities that mirrored the man leading them. Beyond the impressive numbers, Coach Sachs's influence extended far deeper. He became a pioneer in pitching instruction, sharing his expertise with countless athletes across New England. His technical insight and mentorship helped produce 6 Gatorade Players of the Year, and his open-door philosophy meant that young players from any school were welcome to learn from him. As much a leader off the field as on, Sachs served as president of the Salem Education Association for over a decade and as an educational administrator in both New Hampshire and Massachusetts. Throughout his career, he remained a tireless advocate for equitable opportunities in women's athletics, championing the principles of Title IX. Through it all, Coach Sachs's philosophy remained rooted in education and care. It begins and ends with the student-athlete, knowing they are cared for, he often said, a reflection of his belief that true coaching starts with compassion. Whether in the classroom, on the diamond, or through his countless clinics and mentorships, Coach Sachs inspired generations to strive for excellence while never losing sight of character and community. A devoted husband to Kyle, proud father to Colin and Chris, and cherished grandfather to Destiny, Brooks, and Lola, Harold Sachs's legacy extends far beyond wins and trophies. It lives in the lives he touched, the programs he built, and the enduring spirit of teamwork, humility, and dedication he instilled in all who had the privilege to learn from him. The NHIAA is honored to welcome Mr. Harold Sachs to the Hall of Fame class of 2025.
I can honestly say that there probably wasn't an individual that motivated me. I always loved sports, and so when I went into education, I believed that coaching would be in my future because the skills, I think, are transferable between teaching and coaching, coaching and teaching. And if you start with the premise that kids don't care what you know until they know that you care, and then institute those skills that I obviously learned in teaching into coaching. So as I was becoming a better teacher, I was becoming a better coach. And I believe as I was becoming a better coach, I was becoming a better teacher. And in education, you know, you go through trends. I'll never forget, it was probably the mid-2000s when all of a sudden they started talking about teachers as coaches. And where all of us as coaches are, oh, the light's finally gone on. We're pretty good at what we do. I'm not sure you ever really do maintain a balance. Obviously, it starts with my wife. She was incredibly supportive of my career. And I think there's a difference, though, between a career and passion. So now I'm going to add she was incredibly supportive of my passion, because that goes beyond just showing up for work. But there are some tough times, and I coached in 4 decades, so my kids grew up only knowing me as a coach. And I would say there were 2 incidences with my sons that were kind of stressful. So one was my oldest son was graduating from Pinkerton. They were supposed to graduate on a Friday evening, called it because of rain, rescheduled for Saturday, and now we had a championship game against Timberlane on graduation day. So we sat down over breakfast, and I said, listen, I'll do what you want me to do. If you want me to go to graduation, I'll go to graduation. We have coaches who can take the game, or we can come to some agreement. So he said, listen, the most important thing is walking out of the Shepherd building. Don't ask me why, but that's big at Pinkerton. So he said, if you just come, watch me walk out of the Shepherd building, then you can leave. So we did that. That compromise worked. But the worst was my younger son was a baseball player at Pinkerton. And the NHIAA embraced a policy of when baseball is home, softball's away. So there was absolutely no time that I could see him play baseball through his years at Pinkerton, because I was always coaching a game at Salem. So those are the things that never get resolved, but hopefully the family's strong enough to survive those things. So the changes, that's a tough question, the changes that occurred, because again, I coached for 4 decades. So you can imagine. And there are a lot of angles I could take with this, but I'm going to just choose to look at softball. The sport has exploded since I started in the spring of '81 in terms of its popularity. And it started, I think, with the Olympics, and then they dropped softball from the Olympics, but it's coming back. But ESPN has been picking up the Women's College World Series, which I think is their highest rated, college sports that they broadcast. think softball has gained popularity because you have great athletes now who are very well trained, and also a softball game could be played in an hour and a half, in and out, not like a 3-hour baseball game. But I think it's that explosion. And as a coach now, I coach at Division I Merrimack, I'm always amazed at how good these athletes have become. So. Yeah, as I've looked back on my career coaching interscholastic athletics, I really think there was a change in me. So in the 80s, I think we won 3 championships, but starting in the 90s, we went on this run. We won 4 straight titles. We won 84 games in a row, and then we ended up winning 100 league games in a row. And I finally said to myself, this should be about good competition, quality competition, and it isn't. So what is it that I can do to help the competition in our sport? So that's when I started outreaching to coaches and asking them, do you need some help? Because everybody would say, Salem wins because of pitching. Okay, so you have the right to develop pitching, but if you need help, I'll help you. And so then I went into working with a lot of different programs that we compete against. And I even believe that I ended up coaching and training 4 Gatorade Players of the Year who were not Salem players. So to me, that was my biggest thing. It would be easy to say, well, Salem set a standard for people to match, but it was more than that. We outreached to them to help everybody get better. So there are many people that I can thank for my accomplishments, but it has to start and end with my wife and family. 99.9% goes to them. Coaching wasn't a job for me. It was a passion. So anybody who understands what a passion means, so it's 100% physically or mentally, always coaching. Next, I'd like to thank my coaching staff. I had many during the 30-plus years of coaching. 2 in particular that I would like to mention is Reno Beninati, who coached at the middle school for almost the entire tenure that I was coaching at the high school. And then Greg Paris, who was a varsity assistant and really was a head coach in his own right. Great with the kids and great in helping me plan game strategy. So I'd like to thank Greg Paris. Certainly the athletes. And if you think about coaching for 4 decades and the winning that we were able to do year after year, the athletes at Salem were incredible. They just kept coming and coming. I also would like to thank professionally Dr. Hank LeBranch and Dr. Mike Delahanty, who educationally taught me what it meant to be a professional. And then finally, in the area of softball itself, after my first year of coaching, I realized that pitching was everything. So I found 2 individuals in Connecticut, Peter Looney, who was the pitching coach at UConn, and John Stratton, who started the Big Breakettes, who were way ahead of the curve in pitching. Spent 2-3 years with them learning how to pitch and then learning how to teach pitching. So those, along with countless others that I probably don't have enough time to mention, are who I would like to thank.